Hello everyone, welcome to the Kansas City Roth Living Showroom for Sub-Zero, Wolf and Cove. And today I'm going to teach you how to make a really fun recipe for the holidays that incorporates the best of two cookies. Two of my favorites, a gingerbread cookie and a snickerdoodle cookie. So we're going to make gingerdoodles today. And we're going to start out by, we have preheated our oven and back. We're going to use the M-series today, wool oven, and we're going to use Convection. Now what's Convection do? Convection is going to give me some crisping on the outside while allowing that cookie to stay moist on the inside and a little gooey. So we're going to start with some butter. Okay, this is unsalted butter. Now you can do this in your stand mixer as well, but for those of you that don't have a stand mixer, or you just prefer to get into that mixing bowl with the kiddos and have a little bit of fun mixing, we'll do this by hand. So we've got equal parts of brown and white sugar. Now, what's that do? That brown sugar has some extra molasses in it, which is going to make that cookie pliable. Okay, it's going to make it nice and soft and chewy, and it's going to last for several days because it's not going to crisp up as easy as a recipe that has just sugar in it or white sugar. Okay, so as we mash this butter into the sugars, let's also talk about how long should I mix that? And the question is really based on how much spread you want that cookie to have. If you want a significant amount of spread, then I would cream that butter and sugar for about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, if we're going to, and we want to use a paddle attachment if we're using a whisker. I'm just using a spatula here. If we want it to be a little bit more of a stand-up cookie and less of a spread thin cookie, then just don't mix that butter as long. And I'll tell you also, it is a huge plus to have that butter already at room temperature. So that means if you're making some cookies in the morning, then I would set that butter out on the counter on a little plate the night before. Give it lots of time. If you forgot to soften that butter and you need to go ahead and get going on those, then you can use that soften feature on the Wolf microwave, and that will soften that butter up nicely. Okay, so we've got our butter incorporated and we're nice and creamy, but we're not really loose and fluffy, which is what I want. I want these cookies to stand up a little bit. So from here, we're going to take a couple of eggs. Okay, so we're going to crack those in and we're going to just mix each one in a little bit. Okay, let it incorporate. It's a little bit easier to mix the eggs in one at a time. Just takes about 15 or 20 seconds. And then not quite as sloshy, trying to get those mixed in all at once. All right, break that yolk, continue to mix it in. And you can also scramble those ahead of time and just add a little bit if you'd like. Baking recipes really are much simpler if you lay out or measure the ingredients before you start. That way it really does come together very simply. All right, so now we've got those eggs incorporated. We're going to add a little bit of pure vanilla extract. All right, and we're going to mix that in just for a few seconds, and here's where we're going to add another important element of this cookie is some molasses. Okay, and this is some nice dark molasses that's going to give this cookie a really nice richness that we want to develop, and it's going to pronounce lots of flavors with the spices that we're about to put in here as well. Okay, so once I've got that mixed in evenly, don't forget to scrape down the bowl as well. And I think we're there. Now we're going to start to talk about the dry ingredients. We've done all of our wet ingredients first. Now I've got some nutmeg, some allspice, some ginger, some cinnamon, and a little bit of salt. Okay, and in here I've got some all-purpose flour, and you'll see a little bit of some baking soda on top as well. Now if this were a cake, I would be sifting this all together, but with a cookie you can really literally just mix it in with a spatula before you switch over. And I'm going to switch spatulas on this. A little bit easier to mix with a larger spatula. So from here, we're going to go ahead and make this addition. And we're going to add about 2/3 of that flour. It's going to allow me to mix that cookie dough and get that incorporated without making too big of a mess on the countertop or overloading that mixing bowl with so many dry ingredients on top of the wet. It tends to get really messy. All right, so we're starting to get that incorporated. I can add the rest of that now. Okay, so at this point, we're just going to continue to mix that in. If you're using a machine for this, you're going on a low speed until you see most of the flour disappear, and then you're going to speed that up to a medium-low speed, just till all of that's incorporated. We want to keep this cookie tender, so when you're mixing cookie dough in the mixer or by hand, make sure you don't go too far past the mixing part where you start to develop some gluten in those cookies. We don't want to develop chewy cookies in that way. We want to be nice and tender. If anything, we want the sugar to be the chewy part. All right, so that's coming together. I've gotten most of the dry pockets out of that now. Okay, it's going to work another 10 seconds or so, and I think I'm there. Don't forget, you don't have to just mix like this. You can also kind of chop in with the spatula to kind of mix those. Another little technique that just kind of helps you mix in those dry ingredients. All right, so from here, we're on to our next step. We've got our cookie dough mixed, and we're going to have a parchment lined sheet pan in front of us. We've got a little ice cream scooper, okay? This is something that we use in the professional industry to make all of our cookies the same size. If you don't have a scooper, pick some kind of tablespoon that's going to be the same size, and just try and scoop those and make them the same size on each one. So I'm going to scoop against the bowl, and I'm going to do 3 or 4 of these just to show you the spacing and the technique for rolling these. Okay, we'll do 4 or 5. So those are all similar in size. Now we've got some turbinado sugar. What's turbinado sugar? Sugar in the raw, you might have heard of, okay, which is just an unprocessed sugar. I like this on the outside of the cookie because it's a coarser, more natural sugar, and you get a lot of serious crunch with it on the outside of the cookie. So we've mixed in some ground cinnamon, and now we're ready to roll these. And a lot of people want to initially roll them with their hand before they dip them, but actually you've got lots of little crevices from scooping that cookie that sugar is going to adhere to. So we're going to just drop these in, and you can do a couple at a time if you want, okay? And just dust those with that sugar, all right? But we're going to space them about, I'd say that's about 2.5 inches apart, all right? We got a couple left we're dusting, and then we're going to get these on the sheet pan. And on this pan, I think I would be able to go 4 by 3, so I'm going to get a dozen cookies out of here, okay? Now, at this point, I want to check and make sure that my oven is preheated to 325. I'm going to go ahead and scoop the rest of these. We're going to bake these for about 7 to 9 minutes. It depends on how you like your cookies. I like mine crispy outside and a little gooey chewy on the inside. And we'll be back with the finished product. I'll let you see those coming out of the oven, and from there, we're just going to really enjoy baking with this M-series oven. One feature I do want to point out before we go into the baking process is if I've got 3 trays of cookies, we're in the holiday season right now, and I do a lot of cookies and sweets for my family and friends. This mode called Convection on the M-series is a mode that has all of the heat source coming from behind the back wall of the oven. So that means because there's no top and bottom element activated, I can bake 3 trays of cookies. I really wanted to emphasize how nice that is to be able to bake off 3 trays of cookies, and they're going to come out really nice and even. Okay, we'll be right back for more. Okay, so now we're back to check on those cookies. I did a baking cycle on convection mode for about 8 minutes, and we're going to see how those came out. Oh, these look so good. So look at how beautiful those came out. A really nice spread on the cookie, not too thin. They've still got some thickness, which means they'll stay nice and moist for several days if they're covered. But the smells coming out of these, all of those holiday spices, that cinnamon and ginger and nutmeg. Oh, just you should, if you had smell-o-vision right now, you would love it so much. So here's a great recipe. I'm going to continue to bake awesome cookies for the holiday. Here's a great recipe to do in your home. We'll provide that at the end of this video in the link. And please, if you'd like to learn more content about these products, visit our YouTube page, Roth Living, or follow us on Instagram, Roth Living Lifestyles. Okay, thanks a lot and have a great day.